Fintech Chatter, brought to you by Tier 1 People, leaders in Fintech executive search. Welcome to Fintech Chatter Bitesize. I'm your host, Dexter Cousins. If you're new to the show, make sure to follow us and leave a review. And if you're coming back, thanks so much for your support. It really does mean a lot to us. Well, as we approach the 3-year anniversary of the podcast, you're actually listening to our 200th show. It dawned on me how many great leaders I've interviewed over the past 2 and a bit years. Our first episode with Anthony Nantes of Wisr was only 16 minutes long and recorded on a smartphone. But as the show has progressed, the interviews have got longer. An average interview now is closer to 40 minutes. So I thought it might be a good idea to provide a bite-sized podcast where I pick out the finest insights from each interview and share them with you. I'm also in the process of trawling through the archives to find pearls of wisdom from past shows that I can share with you in a bite-sized format. They'll cover everything from leadership, careers, hiring, product market fit, scaling, raising capital. Anything that I think might be of value to you, I'll cut out and trim down so you can have it in a bite-sized format. I'm going to start the concept off with a preview of our next leadership interview with James Fuller, the CEO and co-founder of Hnry. James started Hnry with his wife Claire from the humble beginnings of an Excel spreadsheet. Here's James sharing a great lesson in pricing a SaaS product and focusing on the customer. What did you kind of take from that lesson that then helped you get to the next stage? Because I would assume that when you start to get responses to the Twitter ad, it was then, how do we do this? Oh my God, we've got this.
I remember, and I can't remember whether we talked about this in the last podcast, but it's one of my favorite stories. So Claire and I, we're married, by the way. I don't know whether I went through that in our previous story. So my co-founder and I are married. We were on holiday in...
How do you get away with calling your wife your co-founder?
I think she prefers co-founder to wife at this stage. So we were on holiday with it was just our one daughter at the time. And shortly before we went on holiday, this is back in the real bootstrapping days where everything was done manually, I had that classic startup idea around our pricing. And I said, what we need is 3 different pricing models. You know, you've got like the entry level and the medium and then the extremely expensive, but the middle one's the most popular. I was like, this is great price anchoring. This is what all the big boys do. You have 3 packages and this one's the most popular. And so we didn't have a whole lot of functionality to put into an expensive price model. So I just made stuff up. And I thought, well, it's just because no one's going to take it. It was like we were going to charge people like 6% of their income or something like that. You know, our usual plan cost was, it was 3%. We now charge 1%. So that's how much people were paying. But I put together this 6% plan thinking this is going to be so expensive that no one's ever going to touch it. And I think it included things like invoice factoring and I don't know, we'll come around your house and deliver your money personally. I don't know what it was, but we were away on holiday and someone signed up for the 6% plan. And I turned around to Claire and I said, crap. I said, what are we going to do now? Like, we don't have any of this functionality. The Twitter ad has responded in someone saying, yes, I want all of those things. And she said, well, you're going to have to tell them that we don't have that plan. I thought, well, this is awkward. So they'd obviously signed up with their phone number. So I gave the guy a call. We were away somewhere and I gave him a call and I basically downsold him onto the 3% plan to say, no, you don't want the 6% plan. That's not for you or whatever. So basically kind of talked myself out of a sale. But it was one of those classic moments when it was then that we realized that nobody needs 3 pricing plans. You know, what our customers want is actually just simplicity.
Yeah.
Take it away, do it for me. And so we ended up, at the time we decided on a 3% pricing model. We've now gone down to 1%. So we literally slashed our prices back in 2018. Again, which much to the surprise of our customers who said, you know, I've never been with a service that has literally just dropped their price by so much. But I think the thing that we learned, back to your question, is number one, listen to the customers, but also you've got to have that integrity. You've got to actually be honest with the customers. And when we dropped our prices from 3% to 1%, we contacted our customers and said, it didn't feel right. We weren't providing enough of a service to justify 3%. Yeah. And so we said, okay, it's 1% and we're going to cap it every year. So now our cap is $1,500 a year. So that's all your accounting, all of your payments, all of your software, unlimited support, all rolled in. And it felt so much nicer to be able to offer something at a price point that felt fair.
Yeah.
And, we didn't want to be one of those businesses where you're kind of seeing how much you can get away with. And so you learn by basically downselling your customers when you've overextended. It's
kudos as well to the strength of the product and the problem that you're solving. This game that I'm in, recruitment, right? I often have had so many debates around, hey, why doesn't the industry shift to more of a kind of sports or talent management model where the talent pays part of their salary, right? And the reality is nobody's giving away any of their salary, right? Even if you find them a job, then they're not going to, the expectation is that the employer will bear that cost. So the fact that you were able to, with an unproven product, be able to charge 3% of somebody's income.
Oh, it just shows how bad the problem was, right? Yeah. This is years of sort of systematic, difficulty that the sole traders have had. And sole traders were just like Claire and I when we started. They were, they were expected to, basically do their own books. I remember we used to have our old school accountant who's is a good friend of mine, but that thing where you become self-employed and you wonder which one of your friends is an accountant, and then you ask around and you go, yeah, I thought so. And so we registered with him, lovely guy, but there was that moment where at the end of the financial year, he would literally print off the reporting software that we were using, the accounting software. He would print it off and hand it to me, and he'd go, does this look right to you? Can you initial each page and give it back? And I would say, well, hang on a minute, isn't that your job? And he said, well, no, all year you've been reconciling the transactions, you've loaded in your expenses. I just need you to, confirm that this is all correct. And I sat there, I was like, I'm literally staring at like a wodge of 25, 30 pages going, I'm about to outlay, I think it was probably about $1,500 that I was going to pay the guy for the year. I've done all the work. I've reconciled all the transactions. He's come to me and asking for my signature and whether I think it's correct. And I just thought, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
And that was the kind of genesis for Hnry, is actually, how do we change the nature of the accounting service that sole traders get so that it actually benefits them? And it's not about, how much can we gouge this sole trader for because we can get away with it? It's actually going, well, how do we put in place fair pricing that gives an opportunity for anyone to earn independently? And, it's always an interesting thing when you come at an industry from the outside, like Claire and I did. We're not trained accountants, but we just saw basically people being ripped off. And that's where we're at today, is that, lots of people are being ripped off. And I talked to a hairdresser the other day that was being charged $5,000 for their annual income tax return.
Wow.
But it's the Wild West. And what we bring is a bunch of standardization, huge value add on top of what you're getting elsewhere. So actually, we really stand by the pricing model and the service model because it's genuinely helping people.
Well, thanks for listening. Make sure to follow us so you can access the full interview with James. And please leave us a review. It really helps us in promoting the show to other fintech fans. You can connect with me, Dexter Cousins, on LinkedIn and Twitter. And if you've got any feedback or you want to find out about how to appear on the show, please reach out to Joanne at tier1people.com. Until the next episode, stay safe